Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, friends of FPCI. Welcome to FPCI's Ask Ambassador Anything series, a series of candid discussions between students and ambassadors, and also a platform where students get to ask any question they have in mind to the ambassadors. Certainly, ladies and gentlemen, this discussion is not exclusive for students, it is also open for the general public. My name is Jenny, and I will be the moderator for today's event. Today, Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia has the pleasure to conduct this series with His Excellency Dr. Vasyl Hamianin, the Ambassador of Ukraine to the Republic of Indonesia. Welcome, Ambassador. Today, we are joined by students from FPCI chapters from all across Indonesia. So welcome everyone here who are joining, and also welcome to participants that are joining from our YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, as I'm sure all the participants here have been aware that there has been an ongoing war in Ukraine, which unfortunately has still not been resolved yet, and all eyes are on Ukraine. The world is watching, not only the students from IR field, but also it's the thing that is talked about by everyone, the general public. So this is a very rare opportunity and a great opportunity for all of us here today to ask directly to the Ambassador of Ukraine to Indonesia anything that you're curious about. Aside from the war, you might also want to ask about Ukrainian culture, history, education, and anything else about Ukraine that you're curious about. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, don't forget to share your moments with us from this event by tagging at FPC Indo and at Ukraine in Indonesia in your social media posts. All right, before we start the session, we would like to invite Dr. Dinopati Jalal, the founder and chairman of Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia, to deliver an opening remark to us all. Dr. Dino, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Jenny, and I want to say hello to my friend Ambassador Vasyl from Ukraine, and also everybody else who's joining here from the FPCI chapters and public. I just want to make one point of why we are doing this session. A lot of people have asked me, why should I care about Ukraine? We're busy with this and that, Ukraine is far away in Europe, why should we care? And I think the best way is really to put yourself in the shoes of Ukraine. The best way to understand this is to ask what would happen if this happens to us in Indonesia. So ask yourself, what would you think if a foreign power, a big one, were to send hundreds of thousands of troops into Indonesia, and you would have tanks on Jabodetabek, hundreds of tanks trying to conquer Jakarta, and airplanes, fighter jets would be bombing Rumah Sakit Pondok Indah arbitrarily, or sending missiles to bomb your apartments. And launching a full-scale attack, by air, sea, and land, to the heart of Indonesia and to the fringes of Indonesia, right? What would you do? Would you say, or would you be very angry and fight this act of conquest, expansion, and injustice? Right. So that's one. And secondly, what would you do if you're an Indonesian diplomat, say in a foreign country, and your country is being attacked? I say this because Ambassador Vasyl has been very active, and there's some people who criticize him for being active, which I don't understand, because look, if I was a diplomat, say in Germany or France, whatever, and my country is being attacked and thousands of people are getting killed, right? And there's a chance that my country will be conquered by foreign forces. Wherever I am, I'm gonna make sure I make noise. I'm gonna raise people's awareness. I'm going to make sure people know what's being done to my country, to my people. That's what diplomats should do. If I would be sleeping and playing tennis and going to cocktails, I'll be a poor ambassador, right? Nobody would respect me. So Ambassador Vasyl is fighting for his country the way he should. It's not a news for him. It's not an imagination. It's not caricature. This is a real catastrophe, a real tragedy happening to his people who are dying at the moment. And imagine 27 million people in Indonesia becoming refugees, 1/10 of Indonesia becoming refugees. Well, 1/10 of Ukrainians now are becoming refugees. 4 million people out of Ukrainians, 44 million people or so, right? Imagine, right? So this is not a soccer match, it's not, hey, Russia, I hope we beat Ukraine. Oh, Ukraine, it's not. This is a real human tragedy, right? And I hope today you can see Ukraine from the eyes of a Ukrainian diplomat, a real Ukrainian, and I hope you can put yourself in the shoes of Ukraine as you make your judgment about the war in Ukraine and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Thank you. Have a good discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Dino, for your remark. It is indeed really hard to imagine and to put ourselves in the shoes of the Ukrainian. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now begin today's discussion with Ambassador Vasyl. I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions already in mind. Some even had already poured their questions out in the YouTube channel. But before we go with our interactive session today, we will be listening to a remark from Ambassador Vasyl to hear what he will have to say to us first. So Ambassador Vasyl, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pertama-tama saya mau berkata Ramadan Mubarak to those who are fasting, because I wish peaceful Ramadan to every one of you who are fasting. And unfortunately, this is something that Muslims of Ukraine do not have at the moment. And kedua, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada Pak Dino, temanku, and I treat His Excellency Dr. Dino as my teacher, because I read a lot what he did in diplomacy, and it's a great honor for me to have him today making introduction and providing this platform for this event. Third, I'm really sorry that I still cannot speak Bahasa fluently, so I can understand a little bit, but it's not enough. Fourth, actually, you are my favorite audience, and I thank you, every one of you, for joining this. I was a student myself, and I was living not in my hometown. I'm from the Eastern Ukraine, and my university was in capital city of Kyiv. And when I left my family, I just stayed 5 years in the dormitory, and all the students' family, and we had all sorts of events and everything. And I understand one thing, that since then, I firmly believe that students, mahasiswa, are the future of every country, and the most flexible, the most sharp-minded, the most reliable part of the population, because you are clever, you are smart, you are young, and you are ambitious. So I think that future of your country, of your Nusantara, of your Tanah Air is in your hands. So I thank you very much for joining us. And last, maybe introductory remarks, I would say that I'm grateful to Pak Dino for saying the words he said. And the important thing here is, however far Ukraine is from Indonesia, the war is happening now is not the war of Russia, just of Russia against Ukraine. I would say this is the real war of colonialism against democracy, against peace and stability worldwide. Since the end of the Second World War, this is the biggest invasion, biggest aggression in the recent history, and providing the scale of aggression, providing that the invader is the biggest country in the world in terms of territory, with the nuclear weapons, with the big and strong army as it was before the war, as everybody thought. And this is the invader is the permanent member of the UN Security Council, which is very important to state. And the country under attack is no small country as well. It's 42 million people, 40 now nobody knows exactly, but it's like around 40 million people. And it's the territorially it's the second after Russia, well, Eurasian country, but in Europe it's the biggest country according to the territory. So now we have, if we add up, it will be like around 200 million people involved in this war, only between two countries. Plus we have the Eastern Europe, plus we have the countries who already feel the consequences of this war, who already can clearly feel the raise of prices for gasoline. And in many countries it will be, I hope it would not happen, but I'm afraid that might happen, the food crisis, because Ukraine is one of the biggest contributors to the food security globally. And Russia also made a big contribution to that. And if we fail to gather crops in well, this summer or this autumn, that will be catastrophic for many countries in Africa, Asia, and other regions. So this is a global war. Some people ask me if this is, are you afraid of the Third World War? I'm telling that this is the Third World War. Because in this world, 21st century, anything big happening anywhere will influence the whole world in hours, not talking about the days and weeks and months. This is no 20th century, it's no like 100 years ago. It's very different time, very fast and speedy time of development and of communications in terms of everything. So you press the button here and something happens in the next part of the world, like 1,000 and 1,000 kilometers far away. So this is the Third World War. No, please do not be disillusioned. Last thing, not last thing, next thing is we are fighting not only in the battlefields now. It's that's what we called hybrid war, because everything that happens in today's world is can be only hybrid. We are fighting on many directions, including the economic, including the media and information field. And the battlefield, information battlefield is huge and is very, sangat panas, it's very hot. It's the confrontation between the media and people who are telling the truth, what is happening in fact, and the huge machine of Russian propaganda, which is creating thousands and thousands of fakes, of provocations, in order to distract the attention of the people of the world from the main point, the invasion. So it's a little request to every one of you. If you can join our embassy's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and my personal Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, you will pick up a lot of information, like updated, what happens really in our country, what happens really in the world. And it is in Bahasa, in English mainly, so not too much in Ukrainian now, because just to make everybody informed. We are trying hard, but the propaganda of Russia is so powerful, and since it has been developing for 100 years, so it's very difficult to confront it, it's very difficult to counter it. So with your support, I hope we'll make it smoother, we'll make it stronger, and I rely on this. So share the truth, and you'll be rewarded afterwards. It's like what we call karma or something like this. And maybe the last one, about the situation in Ukraine. I think you'll have a lot of questions on that. But we have been struggling for independence from Russian Empire, and then from Soviet Union, Soviet Empire, and then from Russian Federations for more than 300 years, non-stop. Ukraine is a very specific country. It's very different from Russia. In what term? There are many things that make us different, but one crucial thing is, one very important thing is, Ukraine, through ages, never had a real king, never had a real emperor in the understanding of Raja or Ratu. We always have been a sort of democratic anarchy or something like this. I call it democratic anarchy. So we always have the leaders who were elected and then, if not satisfactory, knocked down and changed, right, replaced. On the contrary, Russia, through the history, through the ages, never had calm and peaceful times without a king. Once they don't have a king, they start fighting, and the chaos starts in this territory. So once they have king, everything is fine. No king, chaos. So this is principal difference in the mentality of Ukrainians and Russians, just to make you know. And now what's going on now? We have been preparing for this war for, like, mentally, right, for a long time. And however, we still believed that this wouldn't happen tomorrow. And we still believe that Putin was bluffing. But if you just look at how the war started and compare it just to the Second World War, you will understand that this was no bluffing. And when the evil is not punished, it repeatedly does the same things all around it. If you look at Russia, just during last 20 or 30 years, maybe, the war in Moldova and Transnistria conflict, frozen conflict, a real bad situation in Moldova. I mean, that half of the territory is just cut down by Russians. A war in Georgia, 1990s. A lot of people died. A lot of people moved, escaped, fled to other parts. 2 Chechen wars in Russia within 6 years or something, when around 300,000 of Muslim civilians were killed by Russian army. Then 2008, Georgia, 20% of Georgian territory was occupied by Russia within days, still until now. 2014, Ukraine, occupation of Crimea, occupation of part of the Donetsk and Luhansk region, and this, like, not frozen conflict but a constant fighting. And during last 8 years, every day we had our soldiers, our defenders died. Then Syria, bombardments of Aleppo, missile hits on civilians, hundreds and thousands of deaths of children and women, bombed by Russian missiles, by Russian aircrafts. Then use of chemical weapons in Syria also. By the way, the general who appointed the chief commander of Russian army, he was in charge of Syrian war, and he was in charge of those bombardments and using of chemical weapons in Syria. And then now, 48 days ago, we had this massive attack. Now, at first, we were like shocked, and we thought that it is just, like invasion, like normal invasion, for a territory, to like so-called liberate the Russian-speaking part of Ukraine, to seize the territory and, to control the territory, knock down the government, and to replace the president and the government with someone who is whom Russia would be happy about. But after Bucha massacre, and this happened in many small towns and cities occupied by Russia, now we are discovering the massive graves and the women raped and children killed every day in many towns. Now then we understood and then take into account the Mariupol, what happened in Mariupol, tens of thousands, I think. We still cannot discover them because they are under ruins of the bombed residential houses and schools and everything. We still don't know the number of the victims, but it will be shocking. And after I understand that the Russian-speaking part of Ukraine was badly hit, and it was like destruction of the population. It was not like a attempt to seize the cities, to occupy the territory. No, it was a massive destruction of cities and massive destruction of civilians. Then I understood that this is not the ordinary war. This is a war against Ukrainian people and against Ukrainian nation. And the purpose of Russia is to erase Ukraine from the map of the world and to erase Ukrainians from the history of the humankind. However shocking it sounds, this is, I'm afraid, this is the truth, because we were warned many times in many eras, many years ago, like 100 years ago and 50 years ago, and even 27 years ago, by the way, by Chechen General Johar Dudayev, if you know who he is. We were warned that this war is inevitable, but we, still believe that something might change and something might happen. So this is a war of Russian Federation against Ukrainian nation, against Ukrainian people as they are. And the purpose is destruction. So maybe last words of this introduction. Now the situation in Ukraine is I would take it like in two parts, the military dimension and humanitarian dimension. Humanitarian situation is very bad because still many cities are under control of the occupants, and they block every source of humanitarian aid that can be delivered to save people like in need. They don't let the humanitarian convoys to reach the people, and they are, literally die every day of dehydration, of hunger, of injuries, of simple illnesses that cannot be treated because there is no water, no heating, no food, no medicines. And in Mariupol, it has been happening for 42 days already. Can you imagine just a city destroyed, no water, no electricity, no food, no medicines, 42 days. And they still failed to seize it. So as for the military, I think that the situation is, like, I would say, more optimistic because, well, you cannot defeat the army, but you cannot defeat the nation. Our nation and our army and our national guards and territorial defenders are very highly motivated, and they are furious after all those crimes against humanity were committed in Ukraine and now discovered. So nation as one, like Ukraina Brisatu, stood up and now it fights, it resists. I would call it like I think it's something like in back in 40s in Indonesia, it's overall resistance. So every man, every woman, every child who lives in Ukraine, they resist, they fight to the extent they can, or helping the army or helping the defenders. That's what's happening there. And our army has liberated many regions and many districts already, but still the eastern part of Ukraine is under attack. It's like Donetsk and Luhansk region. I think you all know about this. So this direction is still very dangerous. And what really scares me very much is that every town the Russian army will occupy or may occupy is in grave danger in terms of they just commit crimes like very similar to what we call genocide. Just they come and kill everyone and torture everyone, and this is a tragedy, and that's what I'm really afraid of. Well, as for the other like military stuff, you can look the news, you can watch the news, and there are some good news that the flagman warship Moscow was destroyed by Ukrainian army yesterday or today I think. And I'm proud to say that the missiles that destroyed this warship are Ukrainian designed and made in Ukraine. So this is something that I would hope that Indonesia will consider and think about, having this, because the weapons we produce in Ukraine, they are widely used now against the invaders, against tanks, against the helicopters, and against the ship. So good things. I'm proud that we can still do such a wonderful defensive weapons. So thank you very much for your attention. I can talk about this for hours, so I'll give the floor to the questions, if I may. Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak, teman-teman saya.
Thank you, Ambassador Vasyl, for your wonderful remarks. Thank you for seeing us as your favorite audience as well. You mentioned you spoke Indonesian very well. It is very respectable posture of the Ukrainian we see today. You mentioned, Ambassador, that the people have mentally prepared themselves for so long already, and it needs to be highlighted that you mentioned that you can defeat the army, but you cannot defeat the nation. And the current situation is really bad. People are dying. The humanitarian aid are facing the challenge. And you also mentioned this as a third world war that we're fighting not only on the battlefield, a hybrid war, right? Wide range of dimension, including battlefield of information in the media. So ladies and gentlemen, let's use this opportunity to get the best out of the information Ambassador Vasyl would give for a few minutes, an hour ahead. So let's go ahead and dive into our question and answer session. In this Q&A, ladies and gentlemen, we will be taking questions batch to batch. So in the first batch, we will take 3 questions, and then Ambassador Vasyl will address them, and it will go to the next batch. We also take questions from the YouTube, and as of now, we have already so many questions flooding at the YouTube chat box, and then Ambassador will address it, and so on and so forth. So for those who are in the Zoom, you can already raise your hand, and you can unmute yourself to ask the questions directly to the Ambassador. Now I see Muhammad Bisma Rafi Pandya. I see you raising your hand. You can unmute yourself, and yeah, you can give the questions to Ambassador Vasyl.
Hello, Ambassador. It's a very astounding opportunity to be able to talk to you today. So I shall keep it short and have a few questions. First is the alleged use of chemical weapons in the port city of Mariupol by the Russian forces, a strategic location to get far in the Black Sea region, filled with both military and ensemble of civilians. If you have any comments regarding this information, I would like it to be known to our fellow Indonesian students. The second question is regarding the destruction of cultural heritage, namely the destruction of multiple Maria Priyanchenko paintings in the city of Ivankiv. Do you have any comments or points to be made towards that? And lastly, I want to talk about a quite sensitive topic, and it is in quite sudden news that I have brought this massacre or quite controversial deaths of 800 civilians in the town surrounding Kiev, namely Bucha, Bucha, Irpin, Gostomel, and Kiev Oblast. Mass executions of civilians that are happening in this sphere is a quite shocking topic. So as a fellow countryman of these people, or should I say brothers or sisters of Ukrainian soul to you, how do you define this heinous act committed, defined by you to the Ambassador of Ukraine in Indonesia? Thank you for the opportunity, and Slava Ukraini.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad. Also, for other audience, please state your name and your institution. Do limit it to 1 question per person. We want to reach as many participants as possible. I know we all have so many questions in mind. We want to encourage more participants being reached out in this session. Thank you once again, Muhammad, for the questions. Ambassador Vasyl, I hope you got the questions right. And we're gonna read out another question first from one other participant that have raised their hand. Here, Tristanto from FPCI UGM, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you very much, Ambassador. I would like to thank you for that extremely powerful introduction. My name is Tristanto, and I come from Foreign Policy Community Indonesia, chapter Universitas Gadjah Mada in Jakarta, and I have a question. So there is this one famous article written by John Mearsheimer, who was a professor of international relations, a very famous one, I can say, titled "Why the Ukraine Crisis is the West's Fault." This article was published around 8 years ago at the Foreign Affairs magazine, and I think this article has been used by many Russian fanboys and Russian trolls to justify their invasion of Ukraine. And the gist of this article is that the Ukraine crisis was caused by NATO expansion and the West's attempt to spread democracy and disthreaten Russia. And the solution that he offered is that Ukraine must become a quote-unquote neutral country. And I would like to ask your response to this article. Yes, thank you very much, Ambassador.
Thank you, Tristanto from FPCI UGM. As of now, we have already a lot of questions addressed by the audience. So Ambassador Vasyl, if you want to address the answer first, you may have the floor.
Yeah, Heroyam Slava, Pak Muhammad. Thank you for that. Right, I'll be very brief because we are running out of time, and I think I can briefly answer these questions. First, on use of chemical weapons, we had this attack of chemical weapons, of chemical liquid of unknown origin, because to make a final decision, we need a laboratory. We are not like Russians, so we say, oh, this is something like chemical weapons of this origin. No, we cannot do this. But the people who were attacked and who really experienced this liquid or something which was sprayed from the drone over 3 objects in Mariupol. The people, all the signs of the we call it Zarin. It's neuroparalytic. Oh, I would not pronounce this word, but it's that paralyze you. Like it influences the neurotic system, nerves, and everything. So the signs are like this. So what it was exactly could be known only after the laboratory analysis, but presumably it was nothing good. And interesting thing that every time Russians do something bad, they always, like in advance, 1 or 2 days ago, they spread the news, the fake news that Ukraine is about to use chemical weapons. Remember those fakes about the biological weapons laboratories in Ukraine, right? The very same day we received this news, many people expressed, like thousands of people expressed the concern that if they mention it, perhaps they are planning to use the biological weapons. But for every you to know, Ukraine, it's very open information. It's like open information. It's no secrets. All the biological, chemical, and nuclear weapons as weapons of mass destruction in the world, globally, in every country, are under severe control. So they are listed, they are registered, and the world knows where are these weapons, where are they situated, what laboratories, what sort of weapons, etc. So it's clear that Ukraine obviously didn't have any of those. And yeah, it will be the investigation on the chemical weapons use of Ukraine. But I repeat, they already used it, at least in Syria. So it's not a surprise for me. But now we are just preparing that they will use it again and again. Like the guy who is leading the Russian army is called Syrian Butcher, because he really led the massacre in Syria. So we are not very happy about that, but what to do. About the destruction of the objects. Well, now I don't think I have the full list of the object destroyed, but I received the information, for example, from my friend Mufti of Ukraine and Mufti of Crimea, that at least 4 masjid in central Ukraine were destroyed or severely damaged. That's what I know. In Kiev, there are not too much damages, but Mariupol, the city in the south, was like, I would say more than 90% of all the buildings were destroyed or severely damaged. So it like ruined to the air, to the ground. And very bad damages were caused, were made in Kharkiv, the second biggest city in Ukraine, and other places. I would, about this, I would remind everyone, because, one thing I forgot to mention, I was growing up in the Soviet Union, right? So I was like 20 years old when Ukraine became independent. So I know what it is about. Second is that 20 years ago or something, I did my PhD in world history. So I had a good chance to look through the historical books and make like a comparison to what is happening and what was happening. So history always repeats if we forget it. And if you look at the Second World War, for example, right, when Nazi Germany army attacked Soviet Union, and the first country was Belarus and Ukraine, the first countries under attack. So when it happened, you know what? They did not drop a single bomb on the cities of Kiev, Lviv, Odessa, etc. They dropped bombs on the airdromes, airports, ports, and warehouses, something, but they didn't harm the cities, and they didn't kill the civilians in cold blood. They didn't murder the civilians. What the purpose was the army, and then the ideologists like communists and propagandists, all this stuff, but never the civilians. And the people who experienced the German occupation in Kiev in 1941, 1943, a lot of stories about that. So we're just like very close to the normal life. However, they understand that this is a new regime and they are enemies, but there were no crimes against humanity committed. So what they do now is just bombing everything and don't care about the buildings, about the historical buildings, about the churches and all this stuff. A third, about the massacre. It's Bucha, and it's not just Bucha, because Bucha was the first place the mass graves were discovered. And you saw the pictures. I'm telling you that. My friend is in this platoon who liberated Bucha. And he called me, he cried, and he said that what you see on the pictures and on the videos is 10% of what really happened. So it's to prevent everybody from shock. They did not put the pictures on the screen, but they document all, and all these materials are now being considered by the International Criminal Court and the Hague Tribunal. So this will go to the tribunals. And the worst thing is they are really doing something incredible and impossible to believe. And even after this, after what they do to the people, it's like torturing for hours of children. And then after this, they just rob the flats, take away everything, like carpets and TVs, and even the underwear, like used underwear, like pants. I don't understand this. And then they go away, and when they have to choose what is to take away, the carpet or the body of your friend who was killed in action, they choose carpets. So they left everybody they left of the Russian soldiers, of the friends they had a sort of, they were talking yesterday. So that's the face of the Russian army. To be more specific and to be more like trustworthy, right? I understand that many people in Indonesia say, well, it's Ukrainian propaganda, blah, blah, blah. Now we have at least two very reliable sources for you. If you don't trust like Reuters, CNN, BBC, etc., we have Al Jazeera, and Al Jazeera correspondent was in Bucha in many cities also. He visited, he filmed, and he reported. And the second one is the Tempo magazine correspondent. He now, I think, 3 days already in Ukraine, and he's reporting, and he's reporting all the time. So it's you can try to find his articles. Sorry, I forgot his name, but it's Tempo magazine, and correspondent in Ukraine. So he visited Bucha and Borodyanka already, and it will be more reports on that. About the justification of invasion, NATO in West, and neutrality, right? Good question. Very briefly, I'll try to do this. Right, you are clever and smart. Just listen to the facts, and then you understand what is going on. First, Ukraine was never promised membership in NATO. Never even promised. It's not like about action plan or like, we give you prospects, never even promised. That's one. Second, before the 2014, now you can note, before 2014, before the attack on Ukraine, Russia and NATO had huge scale cooperation, military exercises, exchange in exchange in weapons, consultations, visits, lectures, everything. Russia and NATO. Ukraine didn't have 1% of what they have with Russia. So is NATO an enemy or a friend or a partner? Second, during all these years, since the independence of Ukraine, 30 years, right? The main consumer of Russian oil and gas and all the other stuff, mineral resources, aluminium, whatever, who? United States, European Union, NATO countries. During 30 years, last 30 years, the main investor into Russian economy, who? United States, European Union, NATO members. Huge investments, huge trade turnover, joint ventures, all sorts of brands coming to Russia. And, we in Ukraine, we have like, I don't know, 5%, maybe 10% of those, of investments of brands and everything coming into Russia. Till the last month, till this invasion started 48 years ago, NATO countries still selling weapons to Russia for hundreds of millions of dollars. Now just think about it. Was NATO a threat to Putin or Russia or not? I'm not talking about the thing that NATO was created as defensive organization, a defensive alliance, and the main purpose is to defend the small countries from the big and strong enemy, because this is to prevent the repetition of the Second World War, when the strong Germany attacked all Europe and nobody really resisted. That was the purpose of NATO. Okay. As for the neutrality, I would say this. I just repeat the words of my president. I mean, if NATO is not promising us anything, it's okay. We can understand. Just tell us you will never be the member of NATO. Fine, we can accept this. We can be neutral. Many countries are neutral, and they can still survive, and they can still fight and everything, and they are ready to fight. Like Switzerland, for example, is very much ready to resist, because it's like overall all people are prepared and everything. But the foreign strategy towards NATO and European Union are enshrined in our constitution. Now, we can change the constitution if we want, but this will require, in every democratic country, referendum. So all people should agree with this, then the approval by the parliament, and then if they approve, the constitution will be changed, will be declared like neutral state with neutral status, etc. And then president just signs the law and fine, finish, we are a neutral country. But for this, as my president proved, we would certainly need the guarantees of security, because after what's happening now, we will definitely need the guarantees of our security, which never were given to us before. So that's why we are under attack now. So basically, everything is possible. Everything is can be discussed, except three things: our sovereignty, our territory, and our territorial integrity, and our people. We don't trade by these three things. Thank you. Sorry for being so.
Thank you, Ambassador Vasyl. The answers were really insightful. It is really hard to imagine. I want to highlight as well what Ambassador Vasyl mentioned, that what people see in the video is only 10% on what's real happening in the Ukraine, to prevent people for shock, and that's it's really hard to imagine. And there are some questions coming in about the G20 as well. I saw from FPCI Unsud, dari Rifki Fernanda, and also there is one from YouTube as well asking about G20. Because as we know, Ambassador, we also had an event yesterday with the Foreign Minister of Canada. She also mentioned that she will not, she doesn't want to sit on the same table with Foreign Minister of Russia, and that's a challenge that poses a challenge to international posture in G20 summit. So the questions coming from them is how important the G20 is to address this, and how can Indonesia diplomatically influence the outcomes of the tables of discussions, the whole international discussion on the G20 summit later. That's the first. And the second, we also have a question coming from, this is very interesting because it's revolving Ukraine culture, from Michelle Prawiro Maruto from Baylor University. There has also been an ongoing onslaught on Ukraine's precious artwork and religious and historical sites. What can be done to preserve Ukraine's culture in the midst of war? That's the second question. And the third question, Ambassador, you can address all the questions after this, from Muhammad Alif from IR Undip. There are Ukrainians living in Russia and vice versa. Will there be any efforts by Ukrainian officials to prevent sour relations between civilians? And this is a very interesting question. It's a new perspective of seeing this conflict as well. Ambassador Vasyl, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much. Right, I'll be very brief. First, the easy question about the preservation of cultural relics and everything. Well, we cannot do anything really efficient to preserve the anything like churches, like cathedrals, like old houses, like fortresses, etc., against the missile strikes, except the air defensive weapons. So when we have air defense systems, I think we have some of them now. This will be the only one strong guarantee of our security, not only for the cultural relics, but also for the people, which is even more important, I think. This is the one. But if you can look at the pictures in Kiev and many cities, so what they did, they just really packed the monuments, the most important monuments in the center of Kiev and other cities, packed in robes and in those like how do you call this, sacks with sand. Just make a sort of a vault over the monuments, precious to us, and that's important. I think that will help. As for the G20, well, I think this question must be addressed to the Indonesian government, because it is tricky. It is a challenge for Indonesia. I'm really feeling, yes, that it is a big challenge to Indonesia as the president of the G20 at present. But I'm sure that Indonesian leaders and diplomats are clever, wise, and experienced. They will definitely find the best way out of this complicated situation, because the situation is really complicated and well, let me not lecture the Indonesian diplomats and officials, right? Let me just say what's my fantasy, what's my try to imagine something, right? First, now after Bucha, after Mariupol, after all these cities, after chemical attack and everything, I'm not speaking about the humankind, but I am sure that we can call very directly the Russia as a terrorist state and the Russian leaders as war criminals. So I don't see any chance, or I cannot imagine in my bad dreams that the war criminal of the global scale would visit and participate as equal in any authoritative and respectful forum or platform or any gathering. I would not imagine it, because this will be a humiliation to everyone participating in this forum. Just imagine Hitler after the Second World War would participate in G7 or United Nations. Just imagine, and you will understand what I feel now towards this problem. But there are ways, I think, that first of all, think about what is G20. G20 now is the most authoritative, because I don't trust in UN. UN is useless now. So G20 is the most authoritative gathering of the strongest economies of the world. So basically, up to them to decide how the world will be developing, like how we will preserve peace, security, food security, energy security, and the sustainable development of this world for the future years. This is very important, right? So look at Russia now under sanctions. I think that in 30 days or something, it will be declared a default country. So even from this point of view, will Russia have the right to participate in G20 when it will be, well, hardly available, hardly accountable even for G50, I think. So so what my fantasy is, G20 -1 + 1. I mean, there are nice countries, democracies, and developed countries who will stay like now. It's like 21 in this line. It will become 20. Fine. So G20 will be preserved like G20, not G19. We just replace the terrorist state with a nice developed like a democratic state. That will be a good answer. Well, that's my fantasy again. It's not. I'm not giving advice to anyone, right? So, but this is, yes, this is challenging. I understand the leaders of some countries, and I really truly understand them when they say that they will not sit down near to the war criminals. As about Ukrainians in Russia, there are many Ukrainians in Russia, but during last 8 years, we systematically informed the Ukrainians who are staying in Russia for this or that reason. Please understand that Russia, we are at war with Russia for 8 years. They are attacking us. They are humiliating us. They are telling lies about what's happening. Please understand this. And if you like don't agree or something, leave Russia, come back to Ukraine, and like this. So there were warnings and all this stuff. When the war started, we cut the diplomatic relations with Russia. So we don't have diplomatic relations, and we don't have diplomats in Russian Federation. They all evacuated. I think Russians too. So there are still some Ukrainians. I think if they want to go anywhere, they are free to go, because it is Russians who are limited in traveling to Europe or other countries, and people with Ukrainian passports are not limited, so you can go anywhere. And this will not be a problem, I think, if they want. So this is up to everyone to decide where do you want to live, whom do you want to stay with. It's this easy. And I mean, we will do anything to protect the rights. But the problem is, it's very difficult to communicate with Russia through years. For example, now from Mariupol, they just took hostages. They took 2,000, maybe more now, a few thousand children, and they just took them away to Russia. And we don't know what happened to them now. It's like for 2 weeks, we don't know the destiny. What happened to them? It's a crime. It's again and again a crime. And we know that many Ukrainian citizens also, like adults, were taken to Russia. And they were taken to the Far East, to Siberia, to the East Asia. I mean, why? For what? And did they ask the permit and everything? This is a tragic page in our history. So that's about it. It's a short, yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador. We have a lot of questions coming in, to a category where questions are kind of heavy here. I think because we have a lot of IR students here, I'm going to address one or two of them. It's coming from Jonathan Jordan. What is Ambassador Vasyl's opinion on President Zelensky's view that Ukraine would have to give up its NATO plans because NATO, quote unquote, NATO members are not ready to accept due to their fear of Russia? And the second question is, there have been several peace talks with Russia with no results so far. This question is coming from Michael Gabriel from BNews, saying, what are Ukraine's current demands to pursue the peace, to achieve peace with Russia? This is about the what are on the table right now between the Russia and the Ukraine. And this next question is more to students' role, coming from FPCI chapter Undip from Naila Faradia. As a student from Indonesia, how do you think we as Indonesian students and as international citizens in general can support Ukraine in the most effective way? I think this question also came from other audience as well in the YouTube, and we want to know what role can we play as students effectively to support Ukraine in this crisis. Ambassador Vasyl, you may have the floor.
Yes, about NATO, I think I answered this question already, but I just repeat just a little bit. We can be neutral, and President confirmed it. We can be neutral, but we need serious security guarantees. So this question, I think I answered. It's no problem with this. I don't see this as not like a principle thing, since we just changed the constitution, and if people will vote for it, it's okay. So no problem with neutrality, right? Peace talks. Well, briefly, the key word is peace. If you don't stop killing and shelling and bombing and fighting, and you just talk about peace, this is the discrepancy in logic and in everything. System doesn't work like this. If you want peace talks, if you agree to peace talks, sit down and stop killing and stop bombing, right? It's very simple. That's why, I mean, the war is on our territory. We have huge losses. We have destroyed cities. We have killed citizens. I mean, we are not wanting to talk. It's from the first second of the invasion, we said that we are ready to sit down and everything, but they never stopped killing. They never stopped the attack. That's why I don't see, I mean, it's humiliation again of the word peace by Russian negotiators. No words. I don't believe, personally myself, I don't believe in peace talks with Putin. He doesn't want peace. He doesn't want talks. He doesn't want like sort of agreement, or he doesn't want our neutrality, and he doesn't want our recognition of Crimea and the eastern part of Ukraine, of Donbass. He doesn't want all this. What he wants is Ukraine, the country, the nation, people preferably killed, territory preferably occupied. That's what he wants, simply. What about the support? Thank you for this question. Really, my friends, it's not hard. It's easy. First, help us to fight the propaganda. Help us to fight the fakes and lies that pours out from Russian embassy in Indonesia. Share the true stories about what's happening. Share the tweets like Instagram, Facebook. Tell the people. Invite the people to join our pages, and just for them to, because like Chinese, I spent like nearly 9 years in China, and what Chinese used to say that don't be afraid to tell lies about something. Be afraid of comparison. If you tell lies, it just lies. Maybe you believe I'm telling this pen is very good, made of gold and worth $1 million, right? This is just my statement. But if you compare two pen exactly the same, and I say this is $1, this is $1 million, people say, oh my God, they're the same. Why should I spend $1 million? That's it. So if you compare the information coming from Russia and coming from Ukraine, you just compare, you see immediately where lies is, where is the fake, where is not. So please do this. What else? Maybe, well, what we need now really is humanitarian aid, but it's not up to students to decide upon this. So the information and information war is very important for us. We have to win in this war, and now we are trying to change the balance in the media and social media, especially in the social media. Too many people shouting that "Ura, Putin" and everything, and say Putin is a friend of our country, Putin is a friend of Muslims, blah blah blah. Just remind them about the Chechnya, and remind them that Putin now is sending people from Kadyrov, Chechnya, sending them to Ukraine to kill civilians, to kill Muslims, to break Ramadan, peace of Ramadan, and to kill the Muslims brothers and sisters who are defending the land. Is that the friend of Muslims? I mean, it's very clear. So just tell them the truth. Let people think. That's what you can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I think it's worth to highlight that Ambassador mentioned currently propaganda is a problem we need to help fighting to speak, especially when it's no longer about just amplifying things. It's about having the truth on the table, on the ground, for people to see the actual truth of what's happening. And I think that's worth to be highlighted. And there are a lot of questions coming in, Ambassador. We can see the audience are very curious about many things about Ukraine. So Ambassador, and also ladies and gentlemen, we're going to extend the session so we can receive more questions. And as of now, there is thought-provoking questions coming in from Kuhon, from Indonesia. Hello, Mr. Ambassador. I would like to ask, how do you feel about a large portion of Indonesians who are supporting the Russian invasion? And this is a very thought-provoking question. We know there are those categories of people who are currently supporting the Russian action towards Ukraine. How do you feel, and what are your thoughts on it, Ambassador Vasyl? And then next, we're gonna read out a question coming from Aida Shafira. This is a pretty light question, and I'm also curious, Ambassador. Ambassador, what's the thing you're longing for when you go back to Ukraine once the war ends and things start to be normal, which we look forward for, which we hope to be over soon, this war. And this is we want to know, what are you going to do when you go back to Ukraine with the war has ended? And yeah, we want to address those two questions first, and then we're going to go to the next batch. Everyone in the Zoom, you can raise your hand if you want to ask a question directly to the ambassador. Ambassador Vasyl, you can.
Yes, thank you. Good questions. What I think about the people who are supporting Russia, they are just they were misled, they were misdirected, and the people who feel themselves, I think they are just don't know the truth. That's a problem. Many people now don't use long reads in social media, just TikTok or Instagram, see the picture and everything. You know what? It's much easier to influence the people by fakes than to prove that you are talking about, that you are saying the true things. It's much easier. I repeat, I lived in the Soviet Union for 20 years. I know what is the propaganda. It is amazing. They created this system in early 20th century, and it has been developing since then. And even Nazi Germany, they just used the system of Soviet propaganda as it existed, because this was like unbeatable. It was invincible, right? Because the lies were so outrageous and the methods were so cruel and everything that people, just believed it. You cannot disbelieve something that looks like impossible, right? And that's why a lot of, you just make a little fake and people, oh, TikTok, boom, 30 seconds, go. Oh my God, hurrah, Russia, etc. And they don't look the background. I mean, misled people is like, I used to describe it as this. I just came to my mind. Imagine the big, nice and clean lake, Danao, right? With clean water, potable, you can drink, you can swim. It's deep and nice and beautiful. And then you imagine the bucket of minyak tanah and spilled on the surface. So on the surface of this nice water, you have the film of oil, minyak tanah, yeah? Very dirty and not nice looking, like brown or something. And then it's very thin. But if you look from outside, from outside, you'll see the color of brown and black. You won't see the color of the real truth, of the real water under this film of oil. You should break this film. It's easy. You can just blow or you use your hand or something, and you will see what is beneath. But people don't take it as offense. People are lazy sometimes. It's just lazy to dig, lazy to to compare, to analyze. Just look through 30 seconds, 10 seconds, blah 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 blah. That's it. So I'm sure that the truth will prevail, and very soon the world will know and see all the videos, all the photos, all the documents. It will be everywhere, and people will understand what was going on. I mean, the majority of Russian people in Russia are under influence of propaganda too. So they may not even know what was going on. I mean, they're limited in resources. They just don't care. They watch TV. Instead of watching TV, they can dig up into the YouTube, into the internet, and find the real news. They're just too lazy to do this. I mean, I came on TV. Nice. I love this. They are telling the truth. I trust them. Come on. Second, what I'm dreaming of, I still have my elder daughter. I still have my mother. I still have my wife in Ukraine, in Kiev, near Kiev. And I still have my 10 cats and 3 dogs. And my friends and my turtle, which I brought from China many years ago, and I'm dreaming of seeing them again as soon as possible. That's my dream, only one.
Thank you, Ambassador. I really hope you can meet your turtles and also your pets really soon. We really do hope so, and we also hope, you mentioned about the monuments and statues and that we have all in Ukraine being wrapped up by the government. We really hope that one day all Indonesians here can visit Ukraine without having to fear of anything, without the monuments being wrapped out as well. Ambassador, we have questions from Hafiz Akbar from FPCI UI. Good afternoon, Ambassador Vasyl. My question is, do you have any comments on Ambassador Lyudmila's statement on people can be beaten down if caught speaking Russian in Ukraine? Is there any truth in this statement? And also following this question, Ambassador, we also have a question from Zaki. Should the opportunity be given, are you willing to sit with the Russia foreign minister or Russian ambassador in the same public media broadcasted forum and also to discuss the war situation under the public watch with them? That is addressed to you personally, Ambassador. And also, I think we can address that questions first before we go to the next batch. So Ambassador, you may have the floor.
Yeah, very easy, right? First question. Just remember one thing about Russian propaganda. I call it mirror lies. What it means, you take any piece of Russian propaganda, whatever they say, put the mirror in front of it, and you'll see the reality. So the problem of Russia is that everything non-Russian is oppressed in Russia. The problem of Ukraine that we never just, make ourselves the heroes that we are the most tolerant country in the world, one of the most tolerant countries in the world. This is the problem. We never say that we are this and this and this. We just live our lives. We have many languages. Half of Ukraine is Russian speaking. How can you imagine people speaking Russian that can be beaten anywhere for just speaking Russian? I mean, they are everywhere, including my capital city of Kiev. Russian speaking people are everywhere. And you know the problem was? What the problem still was before the war. For myself, this was my problem. You have 20 people talking Ukrainian, right? Speaking Ukrainian, just discussing something. Then we have one approaching them who is from the Russian speaking city and he doesn't speak Ukrainian well. All the 20 people start speaking Russian. This is what happens all the time in my country. And I was really angry about this. So why should we, because we're told, oh, come on, this guy doesn't speak, come on, it's not a problem, we just talk, all that. In terms of religions, languages, races, and everything, we have 100,000 foreign students, mainly from Africa, Middle East, and Central Asia. And the number is increasing all the time. 30,000 of Indian students, happily increasing every year. Can you imagine that if we have this racism or things like that, they would come and they will be like coming and increasing, the number is increasing? I would not think so. We have many religions existing in one single city, like everything, like whatever you can imagine. All the Christianity, and the second is Muslim community, third I think is Jewish, and they all just existing, happily. No, the simple answer is no. This is lies again, lies. I was grown up in Russian-speaking part of Ukraine. Can you imagine? 1,200,000 population of my city, one Ukrainian school. One Ukrainian school. All the rest are Russian schools. This is the answer. My wife is Russian speaking. She's from Kramatorsk, which was under attack. You saw the news about on this missile. She's from Kramatorsk originally. She still speaks Russian because it's easier for her when she's like nervous or something to speak the native language, which is Russian for her. This is the answer. Very simple. I don't beat her for that. It's about sitting with Lyudmila. I don't want to sit with her because when the war started, I was like willing to have the joint programs online and something. And I was invited to some online conferences like this. And she was invited too, but she never agreed. She always refused when the war started, right? Always refused. But after Bucha, I don't want this. No, I just don't want, I will be unhappy about it. But if it's inevitable, I have to participate in whatever conference. Well, I don't have anything to hide. For me, it's very easy because I'm speaking the truth and she is speaking what she was told by the propaganda. That's it, very simple.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your answer. Now we go to the next batch of questions. We have a lot of questions coming in. Now I'm gonna take 3. That is first from Inda, asking, how is the decision process of memes, Ambassador, memes to be uploaded on Ukraine's Twitter? It is created by the Ukrainian general public or the government, by the government. Memes, it's a social media postings that we're talking about when the youth are doing the content and all that. The audience are curious about how is it the process to be authorized and to be agreed to be posted. Second, we also have a light question coming from Alif Imam. Can you recommend us some Ukrainian cuisine suitable to Indonesian taste and is good for breaking fast in this Ramadan month? And third, put aside the wars, I want to talk about the beautiful part of Ukraine, Alandra from Indonesia, asking, since your background is a historian, can you tell me more about the Golden Gate in Kyiv? These three questions are pretty light. Ambassador Vasyl, you may have the floor.
Very simple, very simple. First, we are a free country. We don't have propaganda machine, and we really, it's a pain for me, but we didn't spend much money for anything like propagating Ukraine and telling how good we are. We just very limited resources in this. So of course the memes and all this stuff is, but we are a very creative nation. So people, even my son, my daughter, they can do this. They are like good in computer and all that. So yes, all these memes are created by the by our creative people. But what about cuisine? I'm really proud to say that Ukrainian cuisine is very rich. It's so diverse, and we have many regions of Ukraine with absolutely different types of food and everything. And I love it absolutely. And also, it's good to say that we definitely have a substantial part of Ukrainian cuisine which is halal, which is no pork and no that stuff. So it's excellent. And what would I recommend? You know, the problem is that we don't have Ukrainian restaurant in Jakarta. I think we have something like Ukrainian restaurant or with Ukrainian cuisine in Bali. I think one or two, and it will be a good idea to visit if you visit there. As for Jakarta, we really planned a good cooperation. It's a program. It was like a program with the Westin Hotel. Westin proposed to make a month of Ukrainian cuisine and then to introduce the chief to work there for a month and then to teach people how to cook, etc., etc. We have a lot of really very unique dishes, which you will definitely love if you try them. But yeah, and they are good for fasting and they are good for everything because in Christian tradition there are also fasting, and if you are really following this tradition, it's a lot. It's like 280 days in a year of fasting, in like total fasting, not like buka puasa, after this you can eat. No, you just don't eat for 40 days certain things. You are very limited in choice and all that. What about the Golden Gates? Well, Golden Gates are the gates that were built in 11th century, and they were the main gates of Kyiv at that time. And the Kyiv was one of the biggest cities in Europe at that time, with 50,000 of population. It was one of the biggest, really, like London, Paris, and all that, and very developed. One of the biggest libraries in Europe, and blah 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 blah. It's a lot of things. And when Mongolians came in 1240, Kyiv was destroyed because Ukrainians were resisting very seriously, and that's why it was destroyed, because they didn't want these people to be alive because they were such good fighters. That was the destiny of Ukraine, historical mission of Ukraine, to stop the enemy in front, before the gates of Europe, right? So we were defeated, but we didn't allow the army horde of Mongolians to go to any further to Europe. Golden Gate, it's many versions of why they called so, but they are unique in terms of that we have a little church on the roof of these gates. And why they were called golden, maybe because when the army was coming back from long trip or something, the church, the roof of the church was covered with gold. So in sunny days, it could be seen from many, many, many miles away from the city. So people will know that they are approaching our land and all that stuff. But Golden Gate is beautiful. Just come and see. It's nice, nice.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm really looking forward to try that dishes of the Ukrainian dishes that you mentioned. I really hope I get to taste that. Now we're entering the last batch of the question and answer session, Ambassador. I'm gonna read out these questions that might be your as well if you have any closing statement that you want to give to the audience here later. So yeah, this question is coming from Alandra. Russia said to de-escalate the tensions between Ukraine and Russia is to give up the Donbass and Luhansk region to Indonesia. Do you think that will even give region the peace? And do you think it will be possible? And this is also in line with the question that comes from other audience asking. Some people have suggested that if Ukraine became neutral, a peace deal may be possible with Russia. Does the ambassador think Russia would agree to this? And do you think the Ukrainian would also agree to this? Ambassador Vasyl, you may have the floor.
Very simple. Second question, I explained, I think 3 or 4 times. They don't care about NATO, and Russia did not have any single smallest concerns about NATO or about Ukrainian status, etc. Because we were not invited even. Okay, so it's not a question. No, they don't care about NATO or about our neutrality. It's not the point. So whether we agree or not, Russia will not stop till the end, because they have no way out of the situation they created for many reasons. For what they committed in Ukraine, Ukrainian people will never forget and never forgive. For what they committed to their own people in terms of so many soldiers died in Ukrainian land, like invaders, not like heroes, but like invaders. And this will be a great shame for Russian people, a great shame for Russian government for many, many years and decades. And he doesn't want to disclose. I mean, Russian people still don't know how many people are fighting in Ukraine and what are they doing there, how many people died, and what are the results. As promised, it was like within a week they will seize Kiev and there will be like having a parade on Kiev streets by the 9th of May. Ba-bam, then it doesn't happen. And now they don't know how to deliver this information to the mothers and wives of the soldiers killed in action, like bandits, and even they don't want to take away the bodies of the soldiers. This is outrageous. They don't want, and we still have them in refrigerator somewhere. It's amazing. What about the eastern parts? I mean, Russian troops came to Ukraine to kill and to destroy, not to liberate, not to protect, not to make peace or something. Very simple. When they came to Donbass and Donetsk and Luhansk 8 years ago, when they occupied these parts of the regions, can you imagine that people who wanted to be liberated and who welcomed Russian army, right? Can you explain why 1.5 million of those people just ran from this region? They left houses, they left things, they left everything there, the land, like everything. They just ran. 1.5 million. Why? Maybe because they don't want to be liberated by Russia. Maybe because they don't want to be protected by Russia. Maybe because they know what it means, right? So, as our very famous, he's an actor. When he was asked, "Are you afraid of Ukrainian Nazi?" He's living in Odessa, very nice city in the south, 100% Russian speaking. He was asked, "Are you afraid of Nazi?" The question was like 8 years ago, and he say, "Oh, I'm not afraid of Nazi. I'm afraid of Russians come to protect and liberate me. I'm afraid of Russians protecting me against Nazi." That's what he answered. Very clear. So I think that it's time for remarks. Oh.
Yes, Ambassador. Actually, we still have a lot of questions coming in due to the time constraints. I'm sure everyone still have it, but Ambassador Vasyl, you
I'm limited in time.
Yes, you may have your closing statement, or what message would you like to deliver to the audience here that have been tuning in? I'm pretty sure, and I believe most of us here are students. So if you have any closing statement or anything that you want to deliver to us, please do so, Ambassador. You may have the floor.
Yes. Again, thank you very much for joining this conference. I'm honored, and I'm really happy to communicate with you. Unfortunately, we're really limited in time. Maybe in future, in the future, we'll have FPCI will provide us another chance to communicate, to answer more questions. That time, I will not deliver the introduction. I will just answering questions, and there will be like questions can be grouped, and then it will be easy. Well, as a former student to you, what would I say? Work hard, study hard, because these are nice days you have, like being young, being resourceful, being like active. If you don't study something now, after this in future it will be hard. You won't have time. You have wife and children and work and all this stuff. So try to learn as much as possible now. Whatever, you can learn everything. And of course, don't forget to be creative. Don't forget to be like to have some fun in life, because people have to be happy. It's very important to be happy, not only be hardworking, hard studying, be happy. And the very last thing I would like to tell you, it's something very impressive that I read many months ago, even before I came to Indonesia. And it struck me all of a sudden when the war started, that this is something that can really describe to the people of Indonesia, to the youth of Indonesia, of what is really happening in Ukraine and what is the spirit of Ukrainians now. This is, you just go back to Bung Tomo Surabaya speech back in 1945. Just read it from the first words till the last words, till Merdeka Atau Mati. And you will understand what Ukrainians feel, what Ukrainians think, and what Ukrainians are capable of, what Ukrainians are ready for. This is real, and I even created this for myself. I just changed the Indonesia into Ukraine, changed Surabaya into Ibu Kota Kiev, and changed the whatever invaders they are into Russia. And then it fits perfectly, 100%. Just read it once again. We, even before I came here, we translated this speech into Ukrainian and made subtitles, and just because we feel it's very, very understandable. And then when the war started, I just shared it with my friends who are fighting now, and they were saying, how could that be true? I mean, what, 80 years after this happens in the other end of the world, and it's still so vivid, it's still so, we can feel it, you know? So yeah, that's what's going on, to understand it, to perceive it. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Pak Dino. It was great seeing you and talking to you. Merdeka.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Dino is here, want to deliver some words for us all as well. So Dr. Dino, you may have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Duta Besar Vasyl. That was very rich with insights, and you know, you're talking about your country, so it doesn't get any more real than that. Then for students who are watching this, I know there were some questions. What about young people who are in support of Russia? What I want to remind them is you need to think. You really need to think about this, you know, right? Are you not you, yeah, but these people who think that way? But do you really support a country that tries to take away the independence of another country, right? Do you really support a country that wants to break up another country into pieces? We get mad when some countries did that to us in the 60s. We got really mad because national unity is about us, but our dignity. If other countries want to break us into pieces, we get mad and we fight. And do you really support that? Do you really support a government that wants to bring down a president that is democratically elected? You may not like him for one reason or another, or you may like him, but whoever is president of that country and democratically elected by the people is the business of that people. Yeah. Imagine a foreign country that wants to invade Indonesia because that foreign country doesn't like our president. Yeah. Wouldn't you be, angry, right? So basically, like I said earlier, put yourself in their shoes, right? And the shoes of Ukrainians. Ukrainians are no different than Indonesian. They just live in a different country, and they have different skin color, different history, but they're human beings just like us, right? And I'm convinced of this. 10 years from now, the Ukraine war will be remembered as a major historic event in world affairs. And I know history will not side with the Russians. I know history will say this is Russia's worst judgment. And you need to think by that time which position you were on. Do you cheer for the invaders who are killing people, or do you stand up and say, no, that's wrong, and I'm on the side of righteousness, of justice, of democracy, of independence, of sovereignty, right? So you need to think. These people, I'm not talking about you, right? These people who were thinking that, they really need to think. So with that, thank you so much, Ambassador Vasyl, and hello to everybody, and selamat berbuka puasa.
Thank you, Dr. Dino. All right.
Selamat buka puasa, yes.
Selamat berbuka puasa. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hope, Ambassador Vasyl, we also hope that the war can end soon and that the Ukrainian can have their peace back in the country. We are looking forward to the time where we can visit Ukraine with all the monuments that they are curious about, the Golden Gate and all that with the historical monuments. We are looking forward to the time where we are able to visit without needing to see them being wrapped out. And Ambassador, we also hope that you can see your turtle soon that you brought from China. And it is very respectable posture, Ambassador, to see the Ukrainian today. As you mentioned, the mindset is you can defeat the army, but you cannot defeat the nation. And that needs to be highlighted by all of us here today. I echoed what Dr. Dino said to us as well, put ourselves in the shoes. Maybe it is hard to imagine indeed, because it is really severe there, it is shocking, but put ourselves in their shoes because they're just like us who have gained independence and is a sovereign country. Let us do our part, ladies and gentlemen, with our best to show our solidarity with the Ukraine. Lastly, a message from Ambassador to us all, be hardworking and be happy, a message to us all. Once again, thank you, Ambassador Vasyl. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end of our Ask Ambassador Anything session today. Don't forget to share your moments with us by tagging at FPC Indo and at Ukraine in Indonesia on your social media posts. On behalf of FPCI and the audience here today, once again, we would like to extend our gratitude to Ambassador Vasyl for your time and for your insightful session. We had an amazing session with you. We learned a lot as well, and I believe the audience here have gained a lot of information and new perspectives as well. Thank you very much once again to those who are tuning in via this Zoom and also those who are tuning in via our YouTube channel. We hope you enjoyed the session, and we hope to see you at our future events. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and goodbye.